Hey everyone, I am back to talk about chapter 7 in this book. If you're just joining us, I've been reading this book and sharing my thoughts, and it is time to get into journal speak. Chapter 7 is called Understanding Journal Speak, and it is in like a new section of the book as well called Heal, Retraining Your Brain. So I was really excited to get into this chapter. I wasn't sure if we were going to just learn about journal speak or if we were going to start journal speaking, but we were just learning. I've had family here all weekend. They just left. The first thing I did was grab this book and read this first chapter, well, the next chapter. And I wasn't sure, like I said, if we were going to get into the journaling component. So that's the next chapter. So I'm already like, tonight I have to read chapter 8 and actually journal, because I had some pain this weekend on Friday night. And all I could think was like, I don't have the capacity to read deeper into this book with my family here and taking care of everyone and all of these things. And like, I just wasn't there yet. I didn't know what I even needed to do to get into journal speaking. So I'm excited to get into that now. And hopefully moving forward, if ever I'm feeling that pain, I can just dive straight into the journaling piece. We will see. But yeah, so let's talk about journal speak and my initial impressions. Again, I want to record these videos as soon as I've read each chapter, because I want to record what I am thinking in the moment before I actually like try something or learn more or whatever. So a journal speak is essentially a journaling process. And she talks a little bit about what it's not. Like, it's not about like a gratitude journal. It's not recording. Like in the past, I've recorded like how my pain was, what foods I was eating, what medications I was taking to see if there were any correlations. And it's not that. And from what I'm gathering so far, it's really about just addressing these really deep emotions that are so deep that it is not cool usually to talk about them. Even with some of your closest friends, you might not talk about them. And some of the examples in this chapter really hit home for me. She talks specifically about her pain resurfacing when she had a 1 and a 3-year-old. And that's where I'm at right now in my kind of motherhood journey. I have a 1 and a 3-year-old right now, and it's been tough. What's so interesting is they talk about, like having these repressed emotions, and that's what's causing the pain. And I don't consider myself to be an overly emotional person. She said when she first started this work, she specifically was focused on like rage and anger, and eventually realized that she needed to go and think about different types of emotions. And she said, but I'm not an angry person. And eventually she realized like she wasn't maybe like a stereotypic, these are my words, not hers, but what I took away from it at least was she wasn't maybe a stereotypically angry person, but maybe that anger was coming across through the chronic pain she was feeling. And that's really interesting to me, because I too, like, I don't feel like I'm overly emotional. I don't feel like I've never felt the need, I guess, to super process my emotions, and maybe that's part of the problem. I'm not sure. So yeah, I'm very curious what's going to come out when I actually sit down to start journaling. I don't know how much of that process I'm going to share with you guys, but so she says we have these core feelings like grief, despair, rage, shame, and terror. And for example, those are not words that we share with our friends. We're not like, oh no, I'm terrified of this thing. We might say, oh, like I'm a little concerned. And so she says often we use words that are far more socially acceptable, like regret, confusion, frustration, fear, or insecurity. And that was really interesting for me as well, because, well, I don't know if I'm like most people, but I don't often even stop to really consider the depth of my emotions. Like, oh yeah, like that made me mad. But did it make me raging mad? I don't know. I'm genuinely not sure what's gonna come out of this. But she talks about these things kind of being under the surface and these different types of emotions being things that we often don't address. It's not kosher, it's not cool to talk about them. And I definitely understood that. And then she talked about how she kind of developed journal speak, where it came from. She was working with Dr. Sarno, who's, as far as I can tell, kind of her mentor in this mind-body work. And he was a MD doctor, a medical doctor. Eventually she sought him out and he checked her out and he was like, no, you know, like this is mind-body work that you need to do. You don't have anything actually wrong with you physically that needs medical attention. Yeah, I guess this chapter really is the bulk of it. I'm just flipping through it now. The bulk of this chapter is her story, her choosing to delve deeper. She'd done some of the mind-body work when she was younger, and then basically these things resurfaced, and that was when she developed journal speak and getting down really deep, really deep. She was trying to journal and it wasn't going deep enough, and she was trying, it wasn't going deep enough, and finally she wrote the line, "I hate being a mother," which anyone, like, that's not cool. Like, no one says that. Even if you really hate being a mother, no one says that. And then she went a lot deeper than that. Like, obviously she doesn't always hate being a mother. There are components of it that are stressful and hard and all of these things. And there are parts of her being a mom that tie back to her childhood and things that had happened. And it was her example of how she realized like how deep and raw, and she calls it journaling with your inner child, which I take to mean like, you can say anything. You can say, I hate being a mother, and no one's gonna judge you, because first of all, I don't think that this journal is meant to be shared with anyone at all. It's just for you to get your ugliest thoughts out on paper. And so when she talks about journaling like an inner child, I think that's what she means. Like, you don't have to censor your thought process. You can say exactly what you mean. You know, like when a 4-year-old says something that's really mean because they don't understand that they're being mean. They're just saying it how it is. At least that's how I am understanding it so far. It sounds like the next chapter is going to go into more detail about exactly how to journal speak, exactly what I should be prioritizing, hopefully, when I go to start writing. But her story is really interesting. It definitely hits home for me. I'm very much in this stage of having small kids at home, and it is hard some days, but I guess I've never thought to go much deeper than that. I hope that makes sense. Like, it's not like I'm dismissive of my feelings or like I'm trying to, I don't feel like I'm trying to, you know, repress anything where the kids are concerned, but maybe that's the whole point. So this chapter ends with a story about the author's own daughter having, getting a diagnosis that was pretty serious, that the doctor said would require surgery. And Nicole goes, well, this story is written from her daughter's perspective. Her daughter's a teenager now. She wrote her own story and wanted to be included in this book. But basically, after the diagnosis, Nicole did a whole bunch of research about the surgery and the condition and whether or not she thought it would be effective. And she found a story of another young woman who had had the same issue, gone through the surgery, and the pain returned. And she said, I think we can do this mind-body work. And her daughter was pretty young. I think she was 11 when the story started and when she started doing the work. And she dove right in, and now she's not having any issues at all at 16. And she talks about what an impact, you know, the journaling did for her. That's such a cool testament, you know, when you've got someone that close to help you through this. Like, I think it would have been so easy for her with a different mother to have gone down that path of needing a surgery and going all the way through everything, and it still didn't solve the problem. That is sad, you know, like anyone who's going through a situation where, you know, journaling and dealing with a dysregulated nervous system can solve the problem rather than surgery, rather than daily medications or anything like that. Like, obviously, it's just kind of sad to think about people spending a bunch of time and money and resources and energy on a path that isn't going to actually long-term solve a problem. I know I've said this 100 times by now, but I'm very, very excited to actually start journaling. That's why I'm gonna prioritize doing chapter 8 tonight still. So chapter 8 is called Journal Speak, and meditation are your vehicles to freedom. And I already read ahead, and the very first sentence says, it's time to do this for yourself. So I am actually thinking that that is happening. Yes, just like a quick looking at the next chapter. I think there's gonna be some specifics around exactly what to start with, and yeah, really that's all I need is a starting point. I'm all about journaling. I think I said this a little bit in the chapter where she was asking us to talk about what would hold us up, our resistance. In the chapter on resistance, she talked about, you know, like all these things that might hold us back, and I'm feeling very much like ready to like dive off into the deep end with this work, but I didn't feel like I had all the pieces. I'm excited to touch base again tonight. Once the kids are in bed, I'm gonna read this next chapter. It's so funny to me because literally today's Sunday. I got this book in the mail last Tuesday, I think. Like, it hasn't even been a week since I started thinking about actually diving into this work. And I don't know, I'm just very hopeful and very happy that my PT thought to mention this book to me. And even that was like 10 days ago that my PT mentioned this book to me. So I feel like this process has been fast. I've said this before, but I feel like I was primed and ready to like receive this help. So yeah, I'll touch base again tonight and we'll see you soon. Bye.